The Tuscarora tradition opens with the notion that there were originally two worlds or regions of space, that is, an upper and lower world. The upper world was inhabited by beings resembling the human race, and the lower world by monsters moving on the surface and in the waters, which is in darkness, when the human species were transferred below, and the lower sphere was about to be rendered fit for their residence. The act of their transference is by these ideas that a female who began to descend into the lower world, which is a region of darkness, waters, and monsters. She was received on the back of a tortoise, where she gave birth to male twins, and there she expired. The shell of this tortoise expanded into a continent, which in the English language is called island, and is named by the Tuscaroras Yowanuk. One of the children was called Gotigaraquast, or good mind. The other Gotigaraxen, or bad mind. These two antagonistical principles were at perpetual variance, it being the law of one to counteract whatever the other did. They were not, however, men, but gods or existences, through whom the Great Spirit, or holder of the heavens, carried out his purposes. The first work of Gotigaraquast was to create the sun out of the head of his dead mother, and the moon and stars out of the other parts of her body. The light these gave drove the monsters into the deep waters to hide themselves. He then prepared the surface of the continent and fitted it for human habitation, by making it into creeks, rivers, lakes, and plains, and by filling them with the various kinds of animals and vegetable kingdom. He then formed a man and a woman out of the earth, gave them life, and called them Ongwahonwd, that is to say, a real people. Meanwhile, the bad mind created mountains, waterfalls, and steeps, caves, reptiles, serpents, apes, and other objects supposed to be injurious to, or in mockery to mankind. He made an attempt also to conceal the land animals in the ground, so as to deprive men of the means of subsistence. This continued opposition to the wishes of the good mind, who was perpetually at work, in restoring the effects and displacements of the wicked devices of the other, at length led to a personal combat, of which the time and instrument of battle were agreed on. They fought 2 days, the good mind using the deer's horn, and the other using wild flag leaves as arms. Gotigaraquast, or good mind, who had chosen the horn, finally prevailed. His antagonist sunk down into a region of darkness, and became the evil spirit of the world of despair. Gotigaraquast, having obtained his triumph, retired from the earth. The earliest tradition that we have of the Iroquois is as follows: that a company of Ongwahonwa, being encamped on the banks of the St. Lawrence River, where they were invaded by a nation few in number, but were great giants called Ronongwaka. War after war was brought on by personal encounters and incidents, and carried on with perfidy and cruelty. They were delivered at length by the skill and courage of Yatontia, who, after retreating before them, raised a large body of men and defeated them, after which they were supposed to be extinct. And the next they suffered was from the malice, perfidy, and lust of an extraordinary appearing person, who they called that T-Rosque, who was finally driven across the St. Lawrence, and come to a town south of the shores of Lake Ontario, where, however, he only disguised his intentions to repeat his cruel and perfidious deeds. He assassinated many persons and violated 6 virgins. They pointed to him as a fiend in human shape. In this age of monsters, the country was again invaded by another monster, which they called Oyaguahar, supposed to be some great mammoth who was furious against men and destroyed the lives of many Indian hunters, but he was at length killed after a long and severe contest. A great horned serpent also next appeared on Lake Ontario who, by means of his poisonous breath, caused disease and caused the death of many. At length the old women congregated with one accord and prayed to the Great Spirit that he would send their grandfather, the Thunder, who would get to their relief in this, their sore time of trouble, and at the same time burning tobacco as burned offerings. So finally the monster was compelled to retire in the deeps of the lake by thunderbolts. Before this calamity was forgotten, another happened. A blazing star fell into their fort, situated on the banks of the St. Lawrence, and destroyed the people. Such a phenomenon caused a great panic and consternation and dread, which they regarded as ominous of their entire destruction. Not long after this prediction of the blazing star, it was verified. These tribes, who were held together by feeble ties, fell into dispute and wars among themselves, which were pursued through a long period, until all was destroyed.